The lungs are made up of more than one lobe of tissue. The right lung has three lobes called the superior lobe, middle lobe, and inferior lobe, and the left lung has two lobes, so just the superior and the inferior. And one reason why the left lung is a little bit smaller than the right lung is because there has to be space for the heart. You can actually see here that there's this area called the cardiac notch because that's where the heart sits right in between the lungs. Now, in between the lobes of the lungs, we have these kind of ravines, if you will, or separations called fissures. The lungs, each lung is enclosed in a serous membrane called a pleural membrane, or just called the pleura. Now, if we look at we kind of like zoom in, if you will, on the lung here, and we take a look over here. The layer of serous membrane that's on the surface of the lung is called the visceral pleura. And the visceral pleura, visceral means organ, so it's the one that's actually on the surface of the organ. And then there's a little bit of space here, and then there's another layer called the parietal pleura. And the parietal pleura is up against the inside of the rib cage. So this right here is a rib, so a bone, one of the bones of the ribs. And then these are the muscles that are in between the ribs here. Now in this space we have serous fluid, and that serous fluid helps the two membranes to slide over each other and not experience very much friction, because friction causes wear and tear and also the production of heat. So too much friction would be a bad thing. In addition to reducing friction between the lungs and the thoracic cavity while the lungs are, inflating and deflating, the pleural cavity also attaches each lung to the inside of the rib cage. And this is really important because this is required in order for you to breathe. And so we'll talk about that in a little later video. But if you've ever heard of someone having a collapsed lung happens when there's damage to the pleural membrane. And what happens is that pleural membrane is helping to hold the lung open. And when there's damage to that, and it's no longer performing its job properly, then the lung will actually collapse in on itself, and then it can't fill up with air.